I am resident of Colorwood for YouTube. Jules Sage. That is my buddy Patrick McCray. That is my buddy Alan Gallant. We're here to review episode 2, season 2, episode 6 of Hap and Leonard. I'll get it right, I swear.
Cool. You got it.
So, a lot of drama in this one, a lot of emotion, really.
This is one of those things where you can say, just when you thought you got out, they pull you back in.
Yeah.
It's that kind of episode. It's great.
It's not so much a goodbye either. It's more, hey, this is still going on. This is still continuing in a way. They don't.
Yeah,
I love that most about this episode. It's not a goodbye of the characters.
To me, it's the last part of a very long origin story.
Yeah.
It is. It is a full circle in terms of the season, but it's also like they're telling you that it's going to go on.
But it's a chapter stop for their lives.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really love how they start off with the flashback, in a sense, the catch up of what happened on the last episode too.
Yeah.
Because it really ties in well with this episode, because this is what's been going on. And you have the opening of this is really interesting too. You have the young man running from the truck, which was really interesting. And I love how they filmed them. One thing that's underrated about this series, I feel too, is the night sequences when they film them. I love how well they use not just the light, but the darkness in this show.
Yeah, and because of the locale, it's kind of witchy and swamp witch kind of stuff. It is. I mean, this season has been about sort of all various different kinds of voodoo.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like, I know Netflix is supposed to do Hunt Showdown, but I'd want the people who produce this to do Hunt Showdown, because, like, especially like the night boards are because it's set in a swamp.
Yeah. They get that atmosphere is critical.
Yeah, they get it. And they really get the characters too, especially James Porfoy and the guy who played Leonard. I know he passed away.
He did. Unfortunately, he had an addiction problem, and that's pretty much what did him in. Yeah, he stayed in his old neighborhood of Brooklyn the whole time, even when he got big with what was it that he played Omar in The Wire.
Oh, okay.
That was when he got really big. Yeah. And but he kind of stayed close to home, and he had struggles.
What was his DOC?
I do not remember, but I can find out.
It's a ghoulish question, but it actually leads into an interpretation of different choices he made depending on what it was.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Michael Kenneth Williams. He was only 54 years old. He was born in Brooklyn, and he passed away in Brooklyn. And he did a lot of stuff. I mean, he was 12 Years a Slave, the new RoboCop, the Ghostbusters, the 2016 one, Assassin's Creed, Gone Baby Gone. He was working a lot. Obviously, The Wire, I think, is what really people identify him.
So right now, I have a guess.
Yeah.
I want to see if the guess is right.
Okay. He was found dead by his nephew in his apartment in Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn. A friend of mine was born and raised in Williamsburg.
Mm-hmm.
On September 24th, Chief Medical Examiner of New York City ruled it a death by overdose and confirmed that Williams died of a combination of, holy shit, cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, and parafluorofentanyl. That sounds like somebody wanted to kill themselves.
I don't know.
Or had gotten to the point where they had reached that point where certain heroin users get, where they kept getting more and more and more and more until finally their body couldn't handle it anymore. His mother lived in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so that's where his funeral was held. The Baltimore Ravens played a tribute to Williams by playing his character Omar Little's whistle of the song "The Farmer in the Dell" as part of the team intro, all throughout the M&T Bank Stadium. Felix Bautista of the Baltimore Orioles began entering the game to Omar's tribute. Four men were arrested in connection with his death.
Okay.
A couple of drug dealers and probably some co-addicts that took these drugs with him. Unfortunate. But what a brilliant, brief, well, not so brief, a 20-year career, and a lot of great roles. During his portrayal of Omar, Williams went by his character's name and developed a habit of smoking cannabis and addiction to cocaine. So he went a little too method with his character, and that's what got him started.
Yeah. That's wow.
Yeah, it's too damn bad because he's obviously a brilliant actor. He's really good.
And he has such chemistry at Kirkwood.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't imagine that he wasn't deeply affected by his death.
It because they had really great chemistry in this series too. I mean, that's crazy, and I really like the emotion of Leonard in this episode here too. Michael does a really great job of remembering his family member as he's fixing up his house. And you also have Hap, I like how they're sitting in the car at the church because we're going to the church where the guy was killing people. Think about
it.
Right.
I've never been more proud to be an atheist.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah. Well, Leonard didn't like him from first look. I mean, the first time you see those two together in this series, I think they've known each other before, but none of that stuff.
Yeah. And Brian Dennehy, for the short time he's on here in this season, really good.
And this is towards the end of his life as well, and I think his walking with a cane and all that stuff was probably real. I think he was, experienced some health issues, but he's still brilliant.
That's a lot to his knees to keep up with.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, his undercurrent is always there anyway in everything he does, and he's great. Brilliant stage actor as well.
Yeah. I like how the young man when Leonard gives him the Huck Finn dime novel, and he goes, "I read it," and he gives the young man his cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Very passing of the torch, if you will.
Yes, and a very important relic for Leonard to be passing on to somebody. And of course, he has no son of his own, so that's kind of what he's doing.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the entirety of season 2? What are some of your favorite moments overall throughout here?
There's a there's a lot. There's the theme of misdirection and the hoodoo voodoo stuff is great, and the appearance of the ghosts, and we get a finale of these kids and also Mima, who appear to see the gate put back on the fence.
I wish she had been glowing blue.
Something, like a Force ghost. Yeah. But it was a fitting send off, I thought, for that season. But this idea that there are ghosts, that there are spirits out there that we can't see, and sometimes they let us see them, and the idea that there's a protection, maybe even if there isn't one in life. It's very There's a very supernatural element to this whole season.
I took him as a little more metaphorical. I think they can be taken exactly the way you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be taken as just, this is the show, being as literary as it can be with the pure visuals.
Yes.
And letting you do the work.
Sure. Well, you should do the work. I mean, your imagination should be able to take flights with good writing. And this allows that to happen. They don't depict everything and explain everything. And that's part of what makes this season different in terms of its aesthetic.
Now, for me, Joel, a lot of my favorite moments of the season are in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
I think it's important when you watch the end of this episode, where we finally see the band together. We finally see them as a team, and they're happy.
Yes.
They're arguing about the Lone Ranger, which is a comic that Joe wrote. Joe wrote the Lone Ranger comic, and to think that it begins. Well, for one thing, it's a story that's devoted to separating them. They get separated a lot here, especially early on. And Leonard's on his own in this jail here. Hap on his own there. And
then they bring them back in jail together.
Yes.
Yeah, so
a lot of the season is almost Hap, Leonard.
Yes.
And so bringing together is important. And if you think about a moment that is easy to forget about, it's easy to forget because this is so dense. The beginning of this season, when you're watching the end, and it begins with Trudy's ashes, and there's this amazing Lansdale thing of the fumbling with the ashes, this incredibly morbid bit of physical shtick, and then makes you realize how horrific the spiritual implications of that are.
Right.
And just this weird moment of liminality and death and rebirth in water, which always means rebirth of one kind or another. But as he's floating there like Ophelia, with her on his chest, and to think that what a horrible moment for him that is. It's freeing in some ways, I think that's one of the reasons why the water's there. He is becoming liberated from her, which is how we don't feel bad about him going after Florida.
Right.
But at the same time, especially if you have any bereavement issues, the him just floating there with her, oh boy, and his decision to dive or jump after her is the only decision possible for someone in that situation. And so to see him from there alone in that situation, and then to see him arguing about the Tonto and Lone Ranger.
Sure.
And in the truck. Man, when they have the reveal of Bud Collins, that's what he's painting on the truck.
Right.
Not a dry eye.
Yeah.
Not a dry eye.
Yeah. And of course, that all leads back to the last episode in terms of the consequences of that tragedy. And that consequence is not, it also strikes some, particularly Valentine, which we don't expect it to, because we're led to believe that he might be the one that's taken BB and murdered him. And it turns out that that's not the case. Before we get to that, though, I'll say that the fulfillment of the full circle for me comes, and I mean, that's a great one, especially when you connect it to season one, the fulfillment of this season for me, full circle, is that scene where, Mima witnesses this burning and this lynching, and then at the very last scene of season 2 is a noose that we see.
Oh my God!
from above, it's almost like it's like a crane shot, and what the woman is just changing or doing her laundry or whatever, and not even noticing that that's there.
And how beautiful and how all American.
Yeah. So the idea, of course, of race courses through the veins of this show anyway, and we're not going to be left to forget that's still hanging over these people.
Yeah, it's very well reminded and throughout the season, really.
Yeah.
They do a great job of getting into diversity and all that, and the voodoo misdirection. I do love how they did their ghost effects on here, and how I've talked about how they did the fight choreography, but I do really love how they did the ghost effects. And my favorite moment throughout this entire season here is the fact that we got a conclusion to the backstory of how their father is being killed in this that way. Really, because that's not something I was expecting them to do here, but they did it, and really, really good.
Yeah, I mean that was something that was going to have to be resolved at some point. I'm glad they did so before the series unfortunately ended after three seasons. But it definitely needed attention, and we get a lot of that attention and comeuppance in the last part of this episode as well.
Oh yeah.
They confront Valentine, and it turns out, as we've discovered, in shocking fashion, that BB was actually the illegitimate son of Sheriff Valentine,
and a very well cared for.
Yes, and the reason he's hanging out with him in the treehouse and doing all this other stuff is because he's his son, not because he has some weird obsession with him and he's going to kill him.
Yeah.
And then, further horrific, his other son is the one that's actually killed.
Talking about Cain and Abel.
Yeah. And again, it's like there's all undertones of Cain and Abel. There's undertones of racial resentment. There's undertones of all sorts of things going on here with that murder, and that motivates that. And then the end for him is ignoble as it should be. Falls into a dry pool.
Yeah.
When everybody else has been floating in the water, receiving redemption of some kind.
Right. That's exactly right.
But also, BB was submerged in water to be hidden, and there's no water to save. Well, it's just splat, dry pool. So there's some irony there.
It's interesting. The sour dog is not caught alone.
Right.
It's so it really sets us up to think they're going to get him when nobody's looking. No, he gets it when everybody's looking.
Everybody's looking. That's right. Yeah. He gets his. And
so
there's
McConnell,
final shame, final everything that he's been trying to run away from his whole life.
Is so in this just egg-shaped and pathetic.
Yeah.
And he an enormous man just shrinks himself in with
right.
his posture.
Well, we've seen him as the judge first, so he's not, he's got some gravitas, even though he's kind of a schmuck. But in this, he is. He's, like you say, he's shrunken down to being junior, and I'm, I'll help you clean up. It's always
and he sounds like Mike Henry from the Smokey the Bandit movies.
Yes. Yeah. But it's a good breakdown, no doubt, in terms of that, and well acted. The whole thing, all of them were.
It is a powerfully impotent moment.
Yes.
Of acting. Yes. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
I'll save that question for season 3 after we conclude season 3.
Sure.
But this is a question I have in mind. But these two characters, Hap and Leonard, what if somebody were to get into the books, where would you start them at?
7 seasons. These books, the TV shows going in the order of the books.
In the order of the books.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why they're named what they're named, right? That's the seasons. I mean, yes.
7 seasons, Mucho Mojo, Two Bear Mambo, Bad Chili, I think might have followed that.
What a great name.
That's a great name. Bad Chili.
And, yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse.
Is there anything you guys want to add about this episode before we get it?
No, another fantastic journey into the lives and minds of these people. And we do, like I say, I love the fact that those spirits show up at the end.
Yeah.
We know that they're going to be okay.
I mean, again, I would call this legitimate literature, except literature is really this entertainment.
Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to do the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook of Battles is going to be in the description box. Yes, you should pick it up. Yes, you should read it if you haven't already.
Absolutely.
Link to Alan Glenn's YouTube channel, Call Sport After Dark, is going to be in the description box. Gentlemen, I will see you tomorrow night. Be safe.
Yowza.